Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Vancouver City Council meeting of December 1st, 2015. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Robertson is on a leave of absence for civic business. Deputy Mayor Reimer is in the chair. Councillor Louie, leave of absence, civic business. Councillor Stevenson. Councillor Deal. Here. Councillor Jang is leave of absence for medical reasons. Councillor Meigs. Here. Councillor Ball. Yeah. Councillor Carr. Councillor Affleck. And Councillor DeGenova. Madam Deputy Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Just before we get to the business, there was, as Council knows, a rather urgent issue facing quite a few of our residents, one of our SRO hotels, and the city manager and legal staff have been working on this for quite a number of days now, and I asked the city manager to provide an update at this council meeting prior to sending out a memo at the request of the mayor's office.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair and Council. So, as you mentioned, we have been working on this for a little while, and I've asked staff to draft a memo, which will be coming to you momentarily to give you an update on our work on this. We did meet with the building owners yesterday, and we will be hearing back from the building owner today at noon with an update on the repair plans. So we'll be able to provide further information to you once we have that. But also I've had legal looking into some options for addressing the fact that the 60 days that's in the current bylaw is based on the charter and not something that we have the ability to directly control. But have asked law to look into some other options, which I mentioned to you, Councillor DeGenova, a few minutes ago. So what I'd like to do is get you the memo, and then I'd like to add a discussion in camera today to have law give you an update on some of the things that we're looking at. I think there's some options for us, but I think it's worthy of an in-camera discussion at this point, given some of the implications of those. So at this point, that would be my recommendation for how to address that for this morning.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. City Manager. So that brings us to the in-camera session and perhaps explain some rationale to why we need to add F and G, which pertain to legal matters that are properly discussed in camera as it relates to a specific litigant or potential litigant. So council is required to meet in camera later this week. The reasons and authority under the Vancouver Charter are listed in the revised agenda. Would someone like to move that motion? Thank you, Councillor Deal. May we have a seconder? Yes. Thank you, Councillor Ball. All in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Minutes. Minutes 1 are the minutes of the regular council meeting of November 17th, 2015. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Thank you, Councillor Deal. May I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Carr. All those in favor? Seeing everyone's hands up, I will declare it unanimously adopted. Minutes 2 are the minutes of the regular council meeting following the Standing Committee on City Finance and Services meeting of November 17th, 2015. Are there any corrections to the minutes? May I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Carr. Seconded by Councillor Deal. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion is carried unanimously. We now need a motion to go into Committee of the Whole. Thank you, Councillor Deal. I need a seconder. Councillor Carr. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed, I will also declare that a unanimously carried motion. Council will now consider the consent agenda items. Would any, we have 2 administrative reports for consideration. Council may adopt the recommendations for these items collectively in a single vote. Does any member, Councillor Carr, wish to hold any items for debate, separate vote, or because of conflict of interest?
Yes, Madam Chair. Could you hold A1, please?
Okay. Any other takers? Going once, going twice. Okay, going 3 times. Oh, sorry, A2. All right. Well, I'll just scratch out that part of the script then. So the entire agenda will be held for debate. Okay, We will now consider those items held for debate, separate vote, or because of conflict of interest. So, Councillor Carr, item A1, proposed closure of portions of street adjacent to 777 Pat Quinn Way. Do you want to push your... Sorry, it's been a while since I did this. Okay, there you go.
Thank you. Yes, I note that in this report, it talks about the fact that using this authority is rare for new construction. And so I'm wondering how often has this been done for new construction, and what are the reasons why we have to use our authority to under the circumstances here?
Good morning, Deputy Mayor Reimer and Council. I'm Al Zachariah, City Surveyor. Yes, it is rare that we would use this. I've come to Council before with some situations where there was construction error, and the simplest solution at that point was to deal with a volumetric easement. The most common situation is when these are heritage buildings that have cornices that project, and of course we support the heritage building, and we would use this tool to bring them into compliance. In this case, 77 Pat Quinn Way is quite a constrained lot, and the tower is being added onto the existing building, which is really part of the Rogers Arena. And given the constraints of the lot and I guess the load that the tower presents, the only way they could design a foundation was to encroach a little bit onto the street. So we looked at it. We found it wasn't an interference with utilities, and we thought we could accept it.
Okay, thank you. It wasn't anything to do with, I guess my concern when I read it was, is there something difficult about the soils and the management of the bearing of the load in that particular location?
I think the fact that it's really a retrofit, that you're adding a tower on top of an existing building, the original foundation wouldn't have been designed to accommodate the size of that tower that's going on the top.
Right. Okay.
They're not tearing it right down to the ground. They're starting from the existing roof and building up.
Yeah, but it still is considered a new build.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I did ask, has this happened ever before for a new build?
Only with construction error, I've seen it before.
Only with, okay.
So, and I've also seen it with building envelope repairs, where some buildings, they've got a leaky building, and the only way they can fix it is to add on, and they end up coming out onto public property rather than, tearing down the whole building. So you're correct, it's rare, but we did think it was warranted in this case.
Great. Sounds like necessary. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Carr, you're the only one on the queue, so if you...
I'll move the...
Thank you very much. The motion from the staff recommendations has been moved. Anyone want to debate said motion? Seeing none, I will move us to the voting queue. And we can all do our vote, except for me, because I have no idea what I'm doing up here. Okay, I'm going to assist myself. There we go. There we go. Everybody has voted. Excellent. Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to item A2. Councillor Meigs, I don't know how to get you on the queue. There you go, Sue. So you are on the queue.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor? Madam
Deputy.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Okay, Deputy Mayor. Anyway, thank you very much. I didn't want this to go by unnoticed. I'd like to move the recommendation and speak to it briefly, unless there's others who have questions. They're not there, so I will move the recommendation. I don't have any questions. I just simply wanted to draw Council's attention to the fact that this is one of those many things that Council does from time to time, which occur initially in the heat of a huge controversy and then are just passed silently by once they're implemented. There was a lot of frustration among tradespeople, in particular regionally, several years ago, because to work across municipal boundaries, they have to have a business permit in each municipality. And this is very time-consuming for them and expensive, so I brought a motion to council after reading some of the commentary in the papers to have us launch this pilot program. There was already some interest in doing so at the staff level in other municipalities, and so the result is before us today. And as expected, this proved to be much simpler than it seemed at first blush. And the program is now letting it make it easy for tradespeople to work across municipal boundaries, and the municipalities involved are benefiting from that extra activity, but also not suffering any loss of revenue, particularly, not that this is a revenue measure, but we're seeing a practical approach to supporting small business in the region. So it's a welcome development, and I hope that it doesn't stop here. I hope that the municipalities at the staff level, and this would be something maybe Mr. Johnson will hear about later, but that senior administrators across the region look for places where they can do this kind of collaboration so that we see the benefits of that of the regional approach more often, which we don't at the moment. And I could name a number of prominent examples, but Ms. Toma is here, and I don't want to revisit any recent difficult controversies we've had in other areas where the municipal boundaries impose real difficulties on us. So I want to thank staff for their work on this. There's really not too much to be said except that it works very well, and it should be a model for future development. It's certainly been appreciated by the small businesses that benefited. And I hope that some of the media commentators, not Mr. Lee, but others who were frustrated this didn't happen in the past will point out that it did happen now, and it's working very well. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Meigs, and thanks for your work on it. We have Councillor Carr to the motion.
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I too want to thank staff for the work on this, and just make note that, in reading the report, I noticed that we will, at least in the first year of this new permit program, and because of change in the revenue sharing for the licenses, we are estimated to be in the projection of losing around $44,000 in the first year. And I want to note that because I think that it's a small amount, which is projected to be overturned and change so that we will actually gain more revenue. Certainly, I hope we're in the black in future years as the program expands. But it's a real commitment that the city is showing to the small business sector, and the expansion of some of the businesses eligible for this form of license also, I think, shows to the analysis of the breadth of the kinds of companies that do so much work, which is cross-boundary, inter-municipal. And so, for me, it's a supportive measure for the small business community. It is shown, I think, at a small loss for Vancouver that I just want to, I feel reassured that that will grow in time, and that it's a very good effort here to, I think, address what most of us have heard at the council table, concerns by the small business sector about how sometimes difficult it is around licensing and permitting and that kind of thing. And this is an easing of that path for them. So thank you for that work.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Okay, the motion has been moved. All speakers have spoken, so I'm going to move us to a voting queue on the motion. Thank you. Okay, and all members have voted? No, they haven't. Sorry. Councillor Ball, I'm sorry, I moved us. I can't, but I'm hoping the clerk can. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. I already ended the vote. Do you want me to reset it? Yeah. Okay, sorry guys, we'll do it again. I will pay more attention to the black lines. Okay. Councillor DeGenova, I do not have you as having voted. This is one of those ones that deserves many votes. Okay, so we are all in favor. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the consent, or formerly consent agenda. We need a motion to rise from committee of the whole. Thank you, Councillor Deal. All those in favor? Seeing none opposed to it, I will declare it carried unanimously. We need a motion to adopt the report of the committee of the whole. Thank you, Councillor Ball. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Carr. Any opposed to that motion? Seeing none, it carries unanimously. We are on to, oh, wait a minute. I feel like I've missed a motion here. Notice of motion. What happened to the motion on, oh, we're on bylaws. I'm so sorry, guys. I do not have a 10. Thank you. Bylaws. We have 16 bylaws on the agenda for consideration by council. Does any member wish to hold any of the bylaws for debate, separate vote, or because of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Councillor DeGenova, these are all good? Yep. Okay. Bylaw 2.
Remind me of that, but thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. So bylaw 2 is related to the public hearing held February 18, 2014. Councillor DeGenova was not on council at the time and may only vote on the bylaw if she confirms she has reviewed the proceedings which she missed, which includes viewing the related video stream. Councillor DeGenova, did you have a chance to look through that?
No, Madam Chair, I will not be voting as I was not on council.
Okay, Councillor DeGenova will not be voting on this item as a result of not viewing the related video stream. So for the rest of us, all those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries unanimously. The list of approved bylaws is available on the city's websites. We have 2 administrative motions which are to be moved by Councillor Meigs and seconded by myself. All those in favor? Any opposed? It carries unanimously. Okay, we have 1 motion on notice, mentorship program for millennials, which is to be moved by Councillor DeGenova. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor DeGenova, could you please push your button and then introduce the motion? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have put forward a motion. I understand there were a number of people who wanted to come and sign up to speak to this, but unfortunately most millennials are in school right now or trying just to make ends meet. So I understand that the City of Vancouver has had other types of mentorship programs, but currently there is no mentorship program in place for millennials or for, I would say, the next generation. I know that there are a number of mentorship programs in nonprofit organizations and in the nonprofit sector as well as in the private sector. I know that, for example, the Urban Development Institute has a U40 program that's quite robust and also gives people under the age of 40 in the millennial category the opportunity to reach out and be mentored or at least meet with, I would say, people in maybe the baby boomer generation. I guess that would be the right way to phrase that. And I feel that this is something that could be very beneficial here at the City of Vancouver as we look forward, as we are a world-class city, to making sure that we are doing our very best to encourage people to consider the public sector, to consider public service, to consider possibly even elected office. It's important that we do whatever we can to foster these relationships and that we are a leader here at the City of Vancouver. So for those reasons, I put forward this motion. All I'm asking is for staff to report back to us on the possibility of having a possible mentorship program with millennials in different city departments. I was thinking, you know, for instance, in industries out there, we have many private law firms that are looking towards engaging young people who may want to become lawyers. We have an excellent legal department here at the city. We have an excellent development department here at the city, engineering. So it would be great if on a voluntary basis there were some of our staff members or even us as city councillors who would be willing to mentor young people. I think that that would be a great start. I myself have benefited from mentorship. Former Mayor and current Senator Larry Campbell, I consider him a mentor, and Councillor Elizabeth Ball, who's sitting right here, before I was elected, mentored me. Actually, Deputy Mayor Reimer herself at the Canadian Women's Voters Congress, which I know Councillor Carr also is very involved with, encouraged me to run many years ago. So I think that we could all benefit from this. It certainly could be an experience that I think would be mutually beneficial for millennials and for those people who were mentoring millennials, for the mentors and the mentees. So I'm hoping to get unanimous support from council on this. Again, it's simply asking staff to report back on this. And I think that this would be a great way to engage the next generation, especially as we're looking at the baby boomer generation retiring and millennials up and coming into that new workforce. So looking for your support on this motion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor DeGenova. Councillor Meggs, did you have questions of staff or you wanted to speak to the motion?
I don't have any questions for staff.
Okay, so seeing Councillor Ball, did you have questions for staff? Sorry. Does anyone have questions for staff? Seeing none, I will just move us into debate then. Councillor Meggs.
Well, I'm not sure how council will decide to handle this. I'm not against mentorship, millennials, or any of those things. But I have some anxieties about it because I was involved in the city launching the mentorship program for new immigrants. And in that case, there was a clear class of people for whom lack of workplace experience was a huge obstacle to career advancement. And the city sat down in cooperation with immigrant employers of BC and a number of other agencies and identified a program that they thought would be assistance. And it has been very successful with about 19 or 20 people a year who apply it or identified, matched up, and get actual workplace experience. So the organizational commitment is quite significant. It's not going out for coffee with someone once a month and doing a bit of career coaching by any means. It's an actual workplace experience program where hopefully at the end of it, a reference will be given. It's not a commitment by the city to hire people, although that has happened in a couple of happy cases. So I do have questions about it. I understand that Councillor DeGenova is proposing it be referred back to staff, but it also talks about us committing today to initiating and supporting this program. And much as I like the idea of mentorship, I wouldn't want to see and I'm not sure how a voluntary program gets budgeted, and if there's no volunteers, there would be volunteers, obviously. I look also, we saw that the private sector, in the case of recent arrivals, had absolutely not delivered, with a couple of honorable exceptions, in terms of mentorship. There were very few large organizations or small ones that were doing any mentorship for newcomers, even though the benefits of the program were well understood. So the city's program became kind of a leadership program for other organizations that were in partnership through IEBC. And it's these specifics that I would like to know a lot more about before I agree to support it and divert resources to it. So I'm not sure how council will seek to dispose of it. But so those are some of the concerns I have, much as I like the idea of mentorship overall. And I like millennials.
Some of your best friends are millennials. Thank you, Councillor Meggs. Councillor Ball to the motion.
Thank you very much. And although I'm far from a millennial, I am absolutely delighted with this motion because I benefited from actually a very small volunteer program that happened here at the city where you could ask to work with on any sort of level that the employee had. And any time that they wish to put into it. So I did have those monthly coffees, which were extremely helpful to me and useful in terms of planning my career, as well as actually in-depth help on how to bring forward motions, what would happen as a member of the public if you asked for a certain issue to be brought forward. And over the years, I look upon those very, very simple voluntary opportunities by staff members and councillors here at the city have benefited the city greatly because I was able to be informed. And I think that that's one of the things that this program is not prescriptive. It does not say what it has to be. It asks staff what would be most valuable. It asks us to vote for the principle of a mentorship program, not how it will be delivered or how it is defined. And I do think the more open it is, the better. If somebody on staff says, oh, I'd love to do a conversation once a year with engineering students or whatever, it can be extraordinarily valuable for the people out there who are truly looking for jobs. We read headlines day after day about the difficulty of millennials making contacts to be able to be employed and how difficult it is at this time. So I think anything that the city can do, we know how busy our staff is, we know how busy we are, but all of us at some point or another think that we can participate in helping someone else move forward. And I think, again, we're defining the amount of time that we can put into this, and so would the employees be. So I can't see any reason to not vote to hear back from staff on what would be most appropriate here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Carr, just before we go to you, I do understand we have, because things always get complicated when you have a fill-in chair. There is a gentleman here who had come to speak. I'm sorry, I don't have your name. You can't actually speak directly to council, so what I need to ask you a question, though. The best I could do is refer this to committee, and it would come up probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock this evening. Are you prepared to come back then?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, so then council, we would have to suspend the procedure bylaw because the speaker must sign up before the item has started, well, before the meeting actually, but certainly before the debate. So it is up to council if you would like to suspend the procedure bylaw. We would stop debate. We would then refer this to this afternoon's meeting and the speaker would come back. And I'm sorry, I can't really give you an exact time because it would be the last item. Okay. It's not mine to do. Sorry, it's the will of the meeting. So, so the motion I need on the floor is to suspend the procedure bylaw. It will require a 2/3 majority to pass.
Move to suspend the procedure.
It's already been moved. Sorry, Councillor Ball moved it, but I think I need a seconder. So why don't we put you in a second? Yeah, absolutely. Let me just get.
Seem to have lost that this gentleman didn't sign up ahead of time, or we're changing the procedure bylaw because
we're suspending it, not changing it, just for the record. So there is a rule that one must sign up before a meeting. Councillor Ball would probably be in the best position to explain the motion that she's put on the floor. Sir, I'm sorry, but I don't have a provision for you to speak to council at this time.
well,
Sir, okay guys, I'm in the chair. Sir, you cannot speak to council unless asked a question, and I am not asking you a question. So could I have you take a seat? Sorry, I am charged with trying to keep the rules of order intact here. So there is a motion on the floor to suspend the rules of order. Councillor Ball, perhaps you could speak to why you would like the rules of order suspended, and that would help Councillor Meggs inform his vote.
In the past, we have suspended the rule in order to hear someone if there has been a misunderstanding or if someone has come to council and there is no reason to not hear them. We have been able to do so. So it does seem like a reasonable solution, and I appreciate the suggestion of coming back later today, but hopefully we will be able to hear from the speaker. Thank you.
Okay, what I might suggest, because the key point of information that we're all missing is why the speaker didn't get it together to put the name in before the meeting, is perhaps we take a 5-minute recess. Somebody ascertain that from the speaker, and then you can provide that information to the meeting, okay? So we're going to... No, it's not a point of order. I have called a recess. So we are on recess unless you'd like to challenge that ruling, and we will come back at 10 after 10.